All right, awesome. I think we are ready, guys. So first, I just want to thank you all for being on today. This TNT training is specific for new advisors. And although I know there are many of you on tonight that have been advisors, but maybe you're looking for just a jump start or even a refresher. And that's something that I want to take a minute to talk about. Staying plugged into trainings like this, events in your area, the training videos on your microsite, reading the Impact magazine, or even listening to the Notes on Success with Charlie Regas CDs, or plugging in and making sure every day you're going to the Facebook group pages, not only the ones that we have, but even Advocares. These are things that are non-negotiable. So let's be honest, this is a plan B source of income, which you're using your discretionary time on. And for most of you, the realities of life can sometimes rob you of what you were meant to be and some of the dreams that you have. So you have to stay plugged in. If you want to ensure Advocare is always in you and on your mind, you've got to plug in. It just keeps you in the game. And I'm a true example of that. When I first got started, my sponsor lived in Colorado. So he wasn't there to do mixers for me or host events or do two-on-one meetings, any of that stuff. But what he did was connect me with a few local leaders who were gracious enough to allow me to come to their events. And that's what I did. And I went to events with no one. In fact, probably my first 10 events or so, I had absolutely no one with me. But I still went. And you're probably asking, okay, well, why would you go if you had no one there? Well, I went because a couple of reasons. One is I wanted to bring someone with me, but I knew that if I didn't go, no one's going to follow me. So I went. But here's an added benefit. I met some pretty amazing people that are now some of my best friends. And even though we don't benefit off each other's business, we do help each other as much as possible. And I learned how to work this business by going to the events, learning from those people that I met, and just hearing how others spoke about Advocare. So guys, here's my hope for you with this training. And you've probably heard me say this before. No, Advocare is not rocket science. It's a very, very simple business. We have great products that work. You guys know that. You should be testament to that. And we have products that can truly change someone's life for the better. And we have an opportunity to allow ordinary people like you and I to live above average lives. Who wouldn't want to be a part of that? But while it is very simple, I'll be honest, it's not easy. Okay, we have to employ ourselves daily. And employing yourself, if you've never worked for yourself, is not easy. Trust me. Hell, I've owned my own business, and it's still not easy to this day. There's many days I would rather be at the beach or out diving, but I have to employ myself. I have to put some of the wants to the side for now so that I can go to the beach or dive whenever and wherever I want in the future. And the same is going to go for you. You may need to give up a few things now so that you can have everything that you want later. And we'll talk more about that tonight. And, some of you know, I have my mom visiting from Ohio this week, and she's here now. I could have easily said, well, I'll just put this off until next week so I don't miss any time together. But you know what? That doesn't do any of us any good. My mom understands that I still need to work, and your family's going to understand it too. If you need to spend some time building something so that you never have to say no to them again, or you're able to achieve the goals that you've set for yourself. So back to my hope for you. Again, my hope is for you to see how simple this business is, give you the tools and the knowledge you need to be successful, and then for you to go to work and do those things. Because guys, there's only a couple fundamentals that we need to master in Advocare, and each week this training is going to layer those fundamentals for you. So stop being blocked by analysis paralysis. So many people get into that. The underlying fundamental through all of this is to help people. Help people improve their lives, and the rest falls into place. Guys, our paychecks are a scorecard for how many people we help. You don't need to know how many star legs you need to get to the diamond level or how much override you need to get to reach diamond, because none of that matters if you're not helping people. Okay, but it all starts with you. So I hope you had a chance to go over the mindset agreement. Okay, this is such an important component moving forward, and one that you should read daily. There's plenty of negativity that surrounds us on a daily basis, and how we think, we act. What we read, what we watch, what we listen to, all that matters, and we need to be sure we're filling ourselves with positive things so that reflects through us. which ultimately is going to attract the type of people that you want in your life. And this is a powerful document, so please read it daily. And be sure to send me a pic of your signed copy if you agree with it, and then send it to your sponsor as well. Okay, so if I'm not your sponsor, make sure you send it to them. And I'm not going to go over each one of these. I mean, you guys can read them, but there were a couple that I just want to highlight real quick. And honestly, I could talk a little bit on each one of these. But the first one, allowing other people to control my thoughts, refusing to be affected by negative people. Guys, this is one thing that I truly believe in. If you have negative people around you in your life, you need to do your best to separate. Okay, whether that's family, friends, or whatever, it doesn't matter. If they're negative, they are not helping lift you up. Sometimes we just need to let them go. And maybe they'll come back around, but maybe they don't. What matters is you focus on yourself and you don't allow negative people to bring you down. 3, today I choose to quit being victimized by the media and other propaganda. Guys, let's be honest, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of companies who will say, XYZ ingredient is bad and, whatever. Here's the reality, guys. We know our products are safe and effective. We know the science behind them. We know the doctors who are helping formulate them. All right. We don't need to worry about all that other crap that's out there. And we're going to talk about, not tonight, but we will talk about the bulletproof shield, how to protect yourself from, questions like that about ingredients, or, oh, well, I heard this is bad for you. Okay. We just need to make sure that we're not listening to that stuff anymore. In fact, I don't even watch the news anymore. Okay, it's just not worth it. It's doom and gloom. I tell you, you're better off without it. 4, today I choose to control my own destiny. Nobody else pays my bills or has the responsibility to care for myself or my family. Therefore, I take responsibility for my own future. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people blame others for their failures. And the reality is, guys, we got to just stop blaming others. We control what we do and the success of that. And so we need to move forward taking responsibility for our own futures. And if Advocare is going to be in your future, you've got to take responsibility for it, because nobody else is going to call you in the morning and tell you need to make 3 phone calls or follow up with people or do any of that stuff. It's all on you. So whether you're successful or not is going to be totally independent on you. 7, today I choose to take the words frustrated and can't out of my vocabulary. I'm going to have you add a word to that. Okay, take the word hate out of your vocabulary. Okay, there's certain things that, again, what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, all that affects you, but also the things that you say. So if there's certain words that you use that you know are not good, like cursing, guys, nobody needs to curse. All right, now, don't get me wrong. There are times where I use words that I probably shouldn't. All right, we all have that. So I'm not saying you've got to be, completely take them out. But on a regular basis, are you using words that are negative? And if you are, just remove them. They're not necessary. Okay, so take hate out of there. If you don't like something, you don't care for it. Okay, hate is such a strong word, and there's a lot of meaning behind that. So change your words, and that's going to change your perceptions. Okay, and then 9, today I choose to forgive all those who have hurt me in the past and all those who will disappoint me in the future. One thing that I'm huge on, your past does not dictate your future. Your current circumstances do not dictate your future. You dictate your future. Okay, many of you know my past. I've had the opportunity to share that with you. If anybody saw me in my teenage years, they would have never imagined I'd be where I'm at today. But the reality is, all the stuff that I did as a kid doesn't matter. I chose to change. I chose to be better, and I chose a better path. And you can as well. So make sure you guys have these somewhere where you can read them every single day. Initial next to the ones that you believe in, the ones that you will agree to abide by. And again, send them to your sponsor and myself. And if we see you doing something that you've checked off, just understand that we may bring it back up. Okay, so it's just another way of holding everyone accountable. So let's go ahead and get started on this. And guys, we're going to be meeting every Monday at 8:30 for the next, after today, it'll be 3 weeks, so a total of 4 sessions here. All right, but I want to start with the 4 stages of a dream. Okay, because we all have dreams. We see Advocare and we see, these stories of people who are very successful, and we think that it's a linear progression. That, okay, we're going to start and then we're going to work our way to the top, and it just keeps getting better and better and better, right? But the reality is, we have these dreams, and all of a sudden reality sets in that there are certain things that we need to learn, and those things may slow us down a little bit. And we may get a lot of people who tell us no at the beginning. And so a lot of distress comes into play. Okay. And we just need to understand that, the dream phase of this just says, hey, this looks pretty easy. I can do this. And again, Advocare is a simple business, but it's not easy because you have to employ yourself and you have to work with people. But then you start getting in that mindset of, okay, do I really have what it takes? And here's what I want to tell you guys. Anytime you've ever gotten a new job, did you know exactly what you needed to do? And you were right on top, from day one? Most likely not. 99.9% of you probably said, no, I had to learn some things. Well, that's the same thing here. And that's why you're on this training today. So we need to understand that throughout our Advocare journey, we're going to have these phases of distress. And at the beginning, it's usually that distress of, well, I just don't know how to talk to people. I don't know, what products are the best for them. And that's why we do things like this. And this is why we recommend you getting to events so that you learn it all, because that's how you develop yourself. And once you develop yourself, you start saying, okay, I kind of get this. Because here's the thing, guys, if you heard me from the beginning, I can tell you how many times I would kind of sit back after having a conversation with somebody and be like, wow, you sounded like a complete idiot. They're never going to do anything. And sometimes they wouldn't do anything, and sometimes for whatever reason they got on product, and so it wasn't as bad as I thought. But you get better each time. Okay, if you never start to develop yourself, you're never going to get better at it. Okay, and then eventually you hit your destination. And here's what I can tell you guys is when you start learning how Advocare works and you start incorporating the success system and you start seeing the fruits of your labor, it truly will be better than you imagined. Being able to help people and see them help others, I mean, that is truly a great feeling. And one of the things that we really like to talk about in Advocare is leaving a legacy. And with Advocare, you can leave a legacy where you have helped people, and that just continues on well past your time. And that's an amazing thing. But here's what I want you to know. Once you reach your destination, whatever that may be for you, understand you're probably going to go back into the distress phase. Okay? We all do. You've talked to any top income earner in this company. They started off with their dream, they went into distress, they developed themselves, they hit their destination, they went back into distress. Okay? Because we are working with people. And we are human beings. So, you're always going to have this. Now, the distress phase, as you progress through this business, changes. And what I mean by that is typically distress after you've learned the systems, you understand how to share Advocare, and you've gotten some success. Typically what ends up happening is you get somebody who says no. Somebody who, okay, if we look at the first, that dream phase, okay, you find your diamond. Okay, the person you're like, if this guy does it, man, he is going to take off, and I'm never going to have to work a day in my life again. Okay, you get that. And then you realize they do nothing. They sit back and there's no volume coming in. They're not returning your calls. And you're like, what the heck? And it is very easy to get frustrated. And it's very easy to say, if he's not going to do this, this is just not going to work. Okay, I can't tell you. I wish I had written it down. How many people I've had this happen with. Okay, I've had plenty of people who I thought were going to be rock stars ended up doing nothing. And I had people who I thought were going to do nothing who ended up being rock stars. Okay, but here's the thing. When we get in that distress phase, we can't stop. Never stop, because you never know who you're going to talk to next and what they're going to do. And so if I had stopped at the first person who told me no, that I thought was going to be a rock star, and I just kind of gave up because, hey, if a rock star's not going to do it, this ain't going to work, I wouldn't be here talking to you tonight. Okay, so I just want you guys to understand this is going to happen. You're going to have these stages. The key is moving forward. Okay, don't worry about people who aren't doing anything. You can't drag a dead horse. Okay, but you do need to make sure that you're continuing to talk to people, continuing to introduce Advocare to them, getting them on product, and moving them through the system. If you can get good at that, you will find you'll have more yeses and nos, and those nos are not going to affect you at all because you know the power of one yes. Okay, so understand you're going to go through those phases. And then tonight we're going to talk about, I just want you to really keep in mind the Ruby level in Advocare. And we're not going to be talking about, how to get your star legs or how much override and all that stuff. But I do want you to look at the income. So Ruby on average pays around $80,000 a year. So I want you to think about how you're earning income today. Okay, what do you do on a daily basis to earn that income? What if you were able to, on a part-time basis, build Advocare to where you were earning an extra $80,000 on top of what you currently were making? What would that do for your family right now? And on your worksheet, you have an area where you can write that in there. You don't need to do it right now if you haven't already done it, but start thinking about those things. An extra $80,000 a year. What is that going to do for you? An extra $5,000 to $7,000 a month. What changes in your life because of that? Okay, and then think about how you're earning income now. Well, what is it going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? And then what does it look like at retirement? We need to make sure we're always looking forward and we're always looking in the future. Okay, because that's what's going to matter for you. Because a lot of times people look at just the day-to-day. They're like, okay, well, what do I need to do today just to get by? Well, the reality is, if you continue to do that, you're never gonna stop working. You're gonna always have to work to pay bills. But if you can build your Advocare business, guys, there's a couple things that happen. One, it creates residual income. And if you can build this, even let's just say to a Ruby level, okay, where you're getting $80,000 a year. And let's say that's all you ever do, okay, which is still great. And then you retire. And you've built it to a level to where you're always getting $80,000 a year. Guys, most people in retirement will not make that much. Okay, not only that, but also you can will your business to your children. So if you build it to $80,000 or so more a year, you can will this business to your children. So you're truly creating generational wealth. And that's something to really think about, guys. Wrap your hands around that you have something unique, something special. And it's amazing what can happen with it. But we need to think about some of the things, and with the mindset agreement, one of the things we talk about is getting rid of the negativity in our lives, right? So one of the things I want you guys to do is write out a get rid of list. Okay, we need to get these things out of our head and onto a sheet of paper so that it's real. Okay, if you have a lot of debt in your life, if you have a lot of stress, if you don't like your job, or you don't like your boss, or maybe you love your job, but you're overworked and you would rather, be a stay-at-home mom or dad. Maybe you like to travel and those are things that you want to do, but you're not able to because of your job. So anything that you have in your life right now that you no longer want, start writing those things down. Make them real. Okay? Because often these things that we don't want prevent us from focusing on the things that we do want. Okay, what you tolerate, you give permission to exist. And if you keep tolerating these things, they're going to continue to persist in your life. Okay, so we need to define those things in life that we don't want. And then once we have that, then we really need to focus on the things that you do want. So do you want a new car? Do you, want some peace and quiet? You want to live somewhere different? A new house, vacation, retirement. Being able to buy your kids things without having to get them on sale or find coupons. What are the positive things that you want in your life? Because again, guys, this is what we're trying to do, is get the negative stuff out of your mind and start getting you thinking about what can be and what's possible. Okay, and we need to make sure that we're defining our purpose as well. So this is kind of, it helps define your purpose. Starting to write down those things that you want in life starts getting you to think about your purpose. and what is going to get you out of bed in the morning, get you to make those uncomfortable phone calls, and get you to employ yourself on a daily basis so that you can achieve them. Because it's not going to happen any other way unless you actually have some action tied to those purposes. And those purposes have to be big enough to overcome any obstacles that you may face in your daily routine. Okay, so make sure that you're doing this. And, you know, along with the mindset agreement, guys, you are not required to turn in any homework. But if you want to send this to me, if you want to send this to your sponsor, I highly recommend it. Because these are things that are great for us to see what you're doing, the things that you have that you want to get rid of, and the things that you want, Mike, so we know how to help you better or help you more. Okay, so understanding what you want in your life and understanding what you want to get rid of is important. So make sure that you guys fill those out. But also know that your most valuable asset is you. Okay, so what habits do you have that need to change? And again, this kind of goes back to that mindset agreement, but it's so important. You know, any negative thinking that you have, language, your diet. You know, guys, you know, I always say we have 3 jobs in AdvoCare. One is to take the product. So you want to be a product of the product. We need to talk to people, and then we coach and mentor those who say yes. So number 1 is we need to take the product. So are you leading a healthy lifestyle? Are you making good choices on a daily basis? You know, now you don't need to have a 6-pack like Brandon over there. I don't have a 6-pack. I say I'm happy with the dad bod. I have, you know, little 2 abs at the top, and then the rest are kind of there, kind of not. We don't need to be in phenomenal shape, guys, but we do need to be on the path of living a healthy lifestyle. And I always say 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, stick to the foods that you know are going to benefit you. 20% of the time, look, we've got to live life. And some of you saw the video that I posted on the Facebook group page about drinking alcohol. You know, because that's a question that comes up a lot. And guys, again, we need to make sure that when we're doing AdvoCare, it looks like fun, because it should be fun. Okay, so if you're going to have a couple of drinks, that's fine. You know, don't get drunk. Don't do anything that you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh man, what did I do last night? Or, oh, I can't believe I did that. Okay, don't do that. But definitely have a drink. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy life. Because if you make this look too strict, you're going to turn people away. Okay, and that goes with diet too. You know, if you're doing some real strict diet, just understand that not everybody's going to do that. And you need to make sure they understand that, hey, this is what I do because it works for me. And if you want to try something like this, that's great. But if not, I have some other options. Okay, there's a meal plan that goes with the 24-day challenge, guys. Use it. It works. Okay, not everybody has to be strict. So we need to make sure we understand that, but I kind of got off topic just a little bit. But for you personally, make sure you are on the journey. If you're constantly eating crap and you're posting it on Facebook, people are not going to follow you. If you're constantly going out to bars, drinking, people are not going to follow you, and your business is going to fail. Okay, so we need to be careful about what we do and also what we show. You know, I don't post everything that I eat. You know, the other day, Mom and I went out for pizza, and I posted a picture of the empty plates. I had several other things that day that were not really going to help me towards my goals, but I didn't post all those. You know, every once in a while, I'll post a little thing just to show people that, hey, I still live. You know, I still eat pizza. It's okay. And I'm still doing AdvoCare. Okay, so we need to make sure that there's a healthy balance there. And just think, okay, if you want to achieve the Ruby level and beyond, what type of person do I need to be? Okay, start looking at other leaders in AdvoCare. Follow them on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. See what they're doing. Okay, because I promise you this, you're going to see great role models and a great way to model their behaviors. Okay, and eventually they'll become your own. But that's another point too, is make sure you're yourself. Okay, if you try and be somebody that you're not, people that know you are going to see through that, and eventually that all falls apart anyway, right? So we need to make sure that we're being ourselves, but we are on the journey to a healthy lifestyle. We are on the journey to incorporating more exercise into our daily routine or our weekly routine. Doesn't mean you have to go 5, 6, 7 days a week, but if you can go 2 to 3 days, and people are seeing that, people will be attracted to you. Okay, again, any bad habits that we create are going to prevent us from bringing the right people into our lives. So remember, what you tolerate, you give permission to exist. So stop tolerating negative habits. Stop tolerating negative people, and make sure that you are being consistent with this. Okay, and if you need to leave notes for yourselves all throughout the house, just do it, because eventually those habits will become your lifestyle. Okay, but we do need to talk about sharing your story. And just real quick, number 3 on your worksheet, what would others say I need to change about me and why? If you're not sure what that would be, if you're like, oh, I don't think they tell me I need to change anything, I'm perfect, ask them. Okay, I did this a while back. I asked a few people, I said, hey, look, honestly, do not hold anything back. I will not be offended. I need to know this for me so that I can help people better. If there was a couple things that you would change about me and some of the things I do, what would those be? Okay, so some of the people that are closest to you that, know that you won't get offended and anything that they say, you'll be okay with, because it helps you. Okay, so it's a good idea to do that. So if you can't think of anything, or if you're just curious, because a lot of times, guys, we don't see some of the stuff that we do that's bad. Some of the things, the feedback that I got, I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I didn't realize that. Okay, so we need to make sure that we're conscious about that, and that we're asking people on a regular basis. In fact, it's just a good idea. I think I'm going to do that after this. I'll reach out to a few people and do the same thing. All right, so I'm doing this with you guys. I want you to know that when I do trainings like this, it's definitely for you guys, 100%. I want you guys to succeed, but it's also for me too. This helps me kind of get re-energized. It helps me realize some of the things that maybe I haven't been doing that I need to get back to. Okay, so it's been a while since I've asked that question to people, so maybe it's time to do it. Okay, next, let's talk about writing your story and how to share your story. Now, technically, there are 2 versions of your story, and you can do a 30-second and a 2-minute story. The 30-second story is like your elevator pitch, okay? You're at the grocery store, you're checking out, the cashier yawns. You're not going to sit there for 2-3 minutes and share your Advocare story. You're going to quickly share an impactful story that is going to get them to say either, hey, yeah, I'd like to learn more about that, or no, I'm not interested. Okay, that's all it's really designed to do. And we want to make sure that we're getting a little bit of product and business in there. Now, if you know specifically that the person you're talking to is only interested in product, they've told you, hey, not interested in the business part of it and just want product. Okay, well, don't include the business side of it. Okay, but never assume that somebody doesn't want to hear both sides. So if they don't specifically tell you no, make sure you're including both. Okay, so the 30-second is just your elevator pitch, and then the 2-minute is when you have a little bit more time to share more about your story. Okay, and we're going to go into more detail, all the different components to it. Use testimonials. Okay, now some of you may be pretty brand new. I mean, you just hit advisor. I know a few of you did the advisor order, so you are fresh off the boat. You guys are brand new in Advocare, so you may not have a testimonial or your own product story just yet. Okay, now hopefully all of you have at least had Spark, and if you've at least had Spark, you've got a powerful story, okay? Because I know for me, when I first had my first Spark that Matt gave me, within 3 hours, I got more work done than I probably had that whole week. Now that's a powerful story, okay? And that's something that I would share like in my 30-second story with that cashier who yawned, okay? Like, man, you're gonna feel like Superman. Let me run out to the car, I'm gonna grab it for you, and I'll give them a Spark right then and there. All right, but you're going to use testimonials. And so for me, one of the stories that I used for so long, and I still do, is Sarah Stalter's story. So I didn't have a weight loss story. Okay, I lost 3% body fat, gained 2 pounds of muscle. For somebody who needs to lose 20, 30 pounds, it's not going to have a whole lot of impact, right? But it is my story, so I always want to share that. Okay, but then I'll say, hey, and I also helped my friend Sarah. She jumped on the 24-day challenge and lost 18 pounds. She's gone on to lose over 120 now. And she's kept it off. Okay, so I start sharing different stories. Now, Your sponsor may have a bunch of people that they've helped use those stories. They may have a bunch of before and afters. Maybe you have a sponsor who isn't doing anything and you're kind of on your own. Of course, you have us, so you're not on your own if that's your thoughts. But let's just say you were. Advocare has the Impact Magazine. If you haven't gotten an Impact Magazine, you log into your Advocare microsite, go to the shop, go to Business Tools, and the Impact Magazines are there. Literally everything you need to share Advocare is in those magazines. You have Charlie Regis and his guiding principles. And if you haven't read those guiding principles, guys, I hope you watch that video. Advocare is based off those 10 guiding principles. Everything they do, if it does not fit within those guiding principles, they don't do it. Okay, but you have stories in there on the product side. You have stories in there on the business side. So anytime I do a mixer, I'm using those Impact Magazines and I'm sharing those stories in the Impact Magazine. I didn't know those people, but you know what? We're best friends now because I'm sharing them every single time I get an opportunity to do so. That's why they're there. So you don't need to have, a great weight loss story or a large income story for it to be powerful. Okay, even if you've earned 20 bucks, 20 bucks is gas money for somebody. 20 bucks can pay a bill. Okay, so never assume that somebody doesn't need extra income. All right, and so the Impact Magazine or the Tools for Your Success DVD, those are great tools to use to help share the power of Advocare. And remember this, guys, stories sell, facts tell. So I can tell you this, when I first began, I hid behind the facts and I didn't get very far. And what I mean by hiding behind the facts is I would bring out the Impact Magazine. I'd be like, man, Drew Brees is our national spokesperson. And look at the Scientific and Medical Advisory Board. Man, this guy, Dr. Dudrick, he invented TPN. It's the nutrition that goes into the IV. We go through informed choice. They test for over 200 banned substances and impurities. And I would go on and on and on about all these facts. And all that stuff is great. And they provide credibility to what we have. But the reality is people want to know, hey, what is this going to do for me? People are tied into station WIFM. What's in it for me? And if you're just telling them facts, you're not going to get anywhere. We need to make sure that we're sharing stories. Okay, once we've shared the stories and they're interested, then maybe we can go into some of the facts of why we chose Advocare and all that. But at the beginning, guys, it's all about stories. Okay, and that's why your story is so important. So why do we share a story and why is it so important? Well, first, it helps you prepare you to answer the question, what's Advocare? Because, one of the things that we tell everyone is, hey, wear your colors. Okay, and what that means is wear an Advocare shirt, wear an Advocare hat, bracelets, whatever you have, always have something on you that has the word Advocare on it or the logo. That way you can get people to say, hey, I've seen that logo, what's Advocare? And now you can start sharing your story. And you'd be like, man, that's a great question. You haven't heard of Advocare? They're like, well, I think I have. I've seen it somewhere. Like, you may have seen it on TV. There's a bunch of commercials for it, but it's a nutrition and wellness company. In fact, I got started about 5 years ago. And I'm just overworked, 80 plus hours per week. My buddy introduced it to me and got on product. And man, I have more energy than I ever have. And I'm in better shape. And because of it, I've actually started helping other people improve their lives. And within my first month, I made about 800 bucks, and I've gone on to replace my full-time income within 3 years. In fact, then after that 4th year, ended up selling my business, and now I do Advocare full-time. Could a little bit of extra energy benefit you? And that's just off the top of my head. Of course, based on the situation, it can change, and it may not flow that well for you. And it definitely will not flow that well for you if you don't package your story. If you just are like, I got this. Somebody asks me what's Advocare, I'll shoot from the hip. Trust me, it won't work. All right. Whatever you share will probably be advo vomit. Okay. And again, I'm telling you from experience, not only for myself, but from pretty much every other top income earner that I've talked to. Okay, we all have done that at the beginning, and I'm trying to help you guys prevent yourselves from doing that. Okay, so that's why it's so important to package your story. And it allows us to quickly and concisely share Advocare in a meaningful way. We want to be impactful. We only have maximum 30 seconds to really grab somebody's attention. So we need to make sure that it's impactful. But it also helps get people to ask more questions or to even just start a conversation. Okay, the conversation may lead to what they're currently doing with their exercise habits, what they're currently eating. Are they taking nutritional products? Or, what do they do for a living? Do they enjoy what they do for a living? What's their family life like? It gets a conversation going. Now, sometimes you may hit a dead wall. And the reality is, I can tell you this from personal experience, I hit more dead walls than I ever do, uh, starting a real fresh conversation that leads to something. But again, guys, I've ingrained it in myself that no that I get doesn't matter. That no is one step closer to a yes. And so I look forward to the no's because I know every no I get is leading me one step closer to a yes. Okay, so make sure that you embrace that, but embrace packaging your story. So let's kind of put the components together. Okay, so there's four main components, and I'm going to share this with you. Okay, there's two ways that you can do this. There's the traditional way that we're taught in Advocare, which is that here's where I was, here's what I saw, here's what I did, and here's where I'm going. Okay, and then there's what I call the newer version. Okay, and this is what I recommend. This is what I do now. Okay, it's where I was, what I didn't like, what I found, how I feel about my future. And I think that is more powerful because here's an example, okay? I was a small business owner working 80 plus hours per week, and I saw my buddy Matt, who was, living life on his own, and he was earning between $20,000 and $30,000 a month. And so I got started on products, and I got great results, and I started sharing it with people. And within my first month, I made $800, and after that, I replaced my full-time income within 3 years. And now I'm helping people, improve their lives through these products. And for those who are looking for a little extra income, I'm helping them earn that extra income. So let me ask you: does extra energy, or just feeling better, or earning some extra income, does either one of those sound like something you need? Okay, which that's not bad, but it's not as impactful as, hey, I was working 80 plus hours per week, and man, I got to tell you, while I loved what I did, I didn't have time for myself. I didn't have time to travel like I wanted to. I didn't have time to devote to finding a family and building the lifestyle that I really wanted, because the reality is, while I quote unquote owned the job, that job really owned me. So I found myself working from 5 a.m. in the morning until 8, 9 o'clock at night. The reality is I wanted to get home, eat dinner, watch TV, and go to bed because I had to wake up and do it all over again. And that was 5 days a week. On the weekends, I was working at least 10 hours on Saturday and at least 5 hours on Sunday. It's not what I had envisioned for myself and for my future, but what I found was an opportunity that would allow me, with part-time effort, to earn full-time income. So I employed myself just a couple hours a week because, again, I didn't have a whole lot of time. But within that first month, I made $800. Within 3 years, I replaced my full-time income, and I now do Advocare full-time, and I'm excited about the future. I'm able to travel now. I'm able to do some of the things that I never would have been able to do before Advocare came into my life. And I thought I was living the American dream. So does any of that sound like something that you need in your life? Doesn't that sound more impactful? I know for me, that would impact me a heck of a lot more than somebody just sharing, what they saw, what they did, and all that. I want to know some of the hurt and the disgust there. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I just looked at the chat box. Hopefully, Leanne got on. We shall see. So yeah, if anyone was having trouble getting onto this webinar, we'll see. Looks like everyone's on now. So my personal preference is to use this second version. Okay, how you feel about your future, what you found, the things that you didn't like. I think the most important part of that is what I didn't like about where I was, because a lot of people can relate to that. And so if you start using that and really putting more of your time in that, so if you had to break it down into the 2 minutes, okay, where I was, maybe 15 seconds, doesn't have to be much, okay? What I didn't like, good 30 to 45 seconds. What I found, 15 seconds or so, and then about 15 seconds with how I feel about my future. So it doesn't have to be exactly 2 minutes. Again, there's rough estimates, but right around 2 minutes. Don't go too long. If you go too long and you share too much, you're going to lose people. I see that all the time when people are sharing their story, and I'm like, oh my God, are you ever going to stop talking? Okay, that's why it is so important to put your story together, to package your story. Okay, so let's do this real quick. On your sheet of paper, you have some areas where you can write out your story. Okay, and this is what we're going to do. All right, I'm not going to take 5 total minutes right now, but what I am going to do is I'm going to take a minute for each portion of it. Okay, and so for 1 minute, you're going to go ahead and write out your story. So I'm going to go back to the screen so you can, where I was. Okay, let's take 1 minute and do the where I was. So let me get the clock going. Okay, so you have 1 minute to write where you were. Go. Thirty seconds in. And done. Good. All right, so we got where I was. Now, let's go into what I didn't like. Same thing. 1 minute. Ready? And go. Twenty seconds to go. And stop. Okay, so we got where I was, what I didn't like. Now let's go to what I found. 1 minute and go. And remember, what I found can be things like I saw my buddy who, lost 20 pounds and was, getting back to the gym, and that was something that I really needed to do. It can be something as simple as that. Halfway. And done. Okay, last part of that. How you feel about your future. Okay, so write about the things that you feel like you're going to be able to do, even though some of you right now, you're brand new. Okay, you may have not earned anything yet. Okay, but that doesn't matter. Okay, what matters is how you feel about what's coming up for you. So 1 minute and go. 30 seconds. And we're done. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a good foundation to start on. I definitely recommend that you revise this, and you're definitely going to want to practice it aloud, okay? This is something that you need to kind of have ingrained in you so that when that question of what is Advocare comes up, you can share your story, because that's all we do. Anytime somebody asks, what is Advocare? A couple ways that you can do transitional statements, okay? One is, hey, I'm glad you asked that, man. Advocare is a nutrition and wellness company. Bam, go into your story. Okay, that's it. That's all you have to say. That little transition, I'm glad you asked. Advocare is a nutrition and wellness company. Your story. Okay. Or you can do something like, oh, you haven't heard of Advocare? And they'll say, well, no, I haven't. Oh, well, wow, Advocare is a nutrition and wellness company, and your story. Okay, it doesn't have to be weird, guys. We just need to make sure that we can get into sharing our story as quickly as possible, because they don't want to sit there and learn, all the history of Advocare. They just want to know what it is. And the way that you show them what it is by your story. Okay. And then some transitional statements towards the end. Hey, would a little extra energy help you? Or would an extra $1,000 a month be something that could benefit you and your family? Or could you see yourself helping other people like I am? Okay. Those are important transitional statements to use, and they need to be open-ended questions that way. Make sure that it continues the conversation going on, but we have to make sure that we ask a question, because how odd would it be if you just share your story and you stop talking? Hey, I'm really excited about what I'm going to be doing and blah, 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 blah. And then you stop and don't ask a question, okay? We need to make sure that we're asking a question. And some of the things that distributors fall into when they're unsuccessful trying to introduce someone into the success system is they don't use their story. Okay, not only do they not use their story, but they also don't have just a genuine conversation with them. Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the successes in a minute, but those are two key things. Okay, where people fall off and why they're not successful and getting people past, who Advocare is and into using product, is they're not sharing their story, and they are not having a genuine conversation trying to find out about them. Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. Kind of hit on this. So, what if you don't have a big story to share? Again, utilize your upline. Show people stories of those who have come before you and who's helping you. Okay, and then use the Advocare tools, the Impact Magazine, the DVD, man. Guys, that's what they're there for. Or pull up before and afters on your phone. There's plenty of resources for you now to be able to share stories if you don't have a big story to share. And in fact, it doesn't even matter. Even if you have a big story to share, always share one or two others, because your story may be great, but maybe it doesn't relate to that person specifically. So find another story that may relate to that person more, and then end with a question. And remember, shut up and listen. If there's an objection, just listen fully and then address the concern. Okay, I'm going to talk more about that later. But anytime there's an objection, here's just a real quick synopsis of what you're going to do. Feel, felt, found. Okay, feel, felt, found. Hey, I totally understand. I felt the same way that you did, but here's what I found. Okay, so I feel, felt, found. I totally understand how you feel. I felt the same way when I got started, but here's what I found. Okay, so if you use that, you can overcome a lot of objections, or at least address those objections in a good way that's not argumentative. Okay, so you're kind of putting it on yourself. It's, hey, I felt the same way, but this is what I found. Okay, so make sure that you're using that. And if they change the subject completely, guys, roll with it. Okay, maybe they're not interested, and that's perfectly fine. We don't want to force the conversation. Okay, so if I share my story and I'm trying to move them to the next level and get them started on product, or maybe trying to get them to just sit down and chat, but they totally change the subject, it's okay. I'm not going to go back to Advocare unless it comes up. Okay, if they go on and they're just talking about something else, I'm going to be genuinely interested in what they're talking about. And I'm not going to be thinking in the back of my head, okay, how can I get this back on track? How can I get this back on track? Love them where they are. And if the timing is right, if the conversation is right, then it can come back in. But don't force it. If you force it, you're going to lose a lot of people that way. Okay, so let's quickly talk about the success system, and then I'm going to give you a few action steps to start doing once we're done here. Okay, we're not going into detail on this yet. We will in one of the next classes, but here's what I want to hit on, because nothing in here matters if you don't use the success system properly. Okay, and I hit on it just a few minutes ago. The very first thing that we do is a one-on-one. That is you having a genuine conversation with your prospect. Okay, it's not you get somebody who you're like, oh man, this person's going to be awesome, let me get them on a three-way call. And so you call this person and be like, hey, I got something I think you're going to be awesome at. I lost 20 pounds and I want to get you on the phone with my buddy Matt. He's the one who's been helping me, and he replaced his full-time income within 3 years and now does Advocare full-time. You need to hear about this. They're going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? Who is this guy you're going to get me on the phone with, and why? Okay, you're going to lose so many people, and I can promise you this, I lost a lot of people because that's what I did. All right, we need to make sure that we're doing the one-on-one first. And so the one-on-one, again, is just, if it's calling somebody or sending them a private message, definitely don't group message anybody. We'll talk about social media here in the next couple classes too. But it's just reaching out to them saying, hey, look, I found something that I think you might be interested in. It's really benefited me. Do you have a couple minutes that I can just chat with you about it? Okay, get them to confirm and say, hey, yeah, I'll, and always reach out to those who are closest to you, who love you, who are willing to listen to you, and let them know, hey, look, this may or may not be for you, and that's perfectly fine. I just want you to know what I'm doing. Okay, so then they open up the option for you to share your story with them. So you share your story with them. You ask a question. You see where that leads, and then you ask more questions. Okay, so if it's something that they might be interested in, start asking them questions about their lifestyle. If it's on the product side, do you currently take any supplements? What is your diet like right now? What are you currently eating? What are a few things that you might change if you had the ability to? And are you on any medications or anything? These are all good questions that we need to ask people to ensure that we're providing them with the right recommendations, because our job, guys, is to find solutions for their problems. Okay, so the 24-day challenge is a great place for pretty much every single person to start on, but it's not going to be for everyone. If you talk to somebody and they're like, yeah, I really need to lose weight, my energy is not very high, and they're like, my job right now, I'm swimming in debt, I can barely pay my bills, and you're like, dude, you need to do the 24-day challenge. They're gonna look at you like deer in headlights. $200? Are you kidding me? They're not gonna do it. So find things that you can help them with that are gonna benefit them on all angles, and we have to ask questions to find that information out. Let's just say this, in that same example, let's say we ask them all about their health and what they want to achieve and all that, but we never ask any questions about their current financial situation. And we were just like, dude, 24-day challenge is really going to help you. And we sell it. We make it sound like, if you don't do this, you're just crazy. I mean, this is going to really help you. Okay, if somebody is in financial distress, they're probably not going to tell you up front, once you've made that recommendation, that they can't afford it. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It makes them feel less than a person, or whatever it may be. And they may be like, yeah, that sounds really great, and you never hear from them again. Okay, so we need to make sure that we ask people what their budget is and just let them know up front. Hey, look, I'm going to ask you some questions. And, one of them is, what can you afford at this point? Because if I had an opportunity for you to achieve XYZ goals that you just told me about, and I could get you going now, what would that look like for you? And just get them to honestly answer that question. And that way you can guide them better. Okay, but we have to start the success system with that one-on-one, because they're going to open up to you a heck of a lot more than they're going to open up to me, somebody they don't even know. Okay, so make sure that you do that. One-on-one is first and foremost, and be genuine when you're talking to people. And if they don't want to do anything, love them where they are. A no typically means not now. Okay, I've had so many people who have come back to me after 2, 3, 4 years, who are like, man, I've been watching what you're doing. I remember us talking about it. I'm kind of ready to go now. So let's have that conversation again. So there you go. But we will talk about 2-on-1, 3-way calls, how to do those, mixers, events, all that good stuff coming up. So while we're hitting right about an hour now, let's go ahead and wind this down. So your most important asset, guys, is you. So focus on you before you do anything. Okay, if you're not the type of person that people will want to follow, we need to make sure we're doing the things necessary to get there. Doesn't mean you can't work your advocate business until you're perfect. It's kind of like going to church, right? Like people think they have to be holy to go to church. The reality is, church wants to find the broken people. Okay, same thing with working out. I've had people as a trainer like, I need to get in shape before I come see you. Like, what? Like, that's why you come to see me. Okay, so don't wait to start your advocate business until you're in the shape you think you should be, whether that's physically, mentally, or the combination of the two. Okay, but you need to focus on you. You need to improve yourself. So define your purpose. What is it you're fighting for? Figure out your finances and face reality, guys. One of the rules, or one of the jobs that we have in advocate is to take the products. Well, take what you can afford. Okay, but make sure you have a true financial snapshot of where you stand and what you can't afford. Don't go broke trying to build your advocate business because you think you need to take all the products. Okay, if you need any suggestions on the products, talk to me. I've taken pretty much everything except for the women's formula, and I probably won't do that, but I have somebody that has taken it, so I can lead you to them. But that's all we do. If you haven't tried a product and you're curious about it, ask. Okay, if I haven't taken it, which I seriously doubt there's any product other than that women's formula that I haven't taken, I can give you some constructive feedback. Okay, so figure out your finances and face reality to where you want to be. Okay, remember that get rid of list and the want list. Make sure you're doing that. Okay, refine your story and practice it. Practice it with your sponsor, practice it with your spouse, practice it with your friends, your mom, whatever. Just practice it as often as possible so that it can become a habit and it can flow off your tongue easy when you get sidetracked or bombarded in a grocery store and somebody's like, hey, what's advocate? Okay, we need to make sure that we're sharing that with strength. Okay, and speaking of sharing it, I want you guys to share your story with at least 3 people. Okay, and use the success system. Okay, so you're going to do the one-on-one, sharing your story, asking a question if they could benefit from XYZ, whatever you choose. Okay, and then from there, here's what I'm going to recommend for you is that you start getting some 3-way calls going. And here is a great transitional statement for that. Okay, so once you've shared your story, you've talked to them and they're like, yeah, man, that sounds great. I really could benefit from that. Okay, and that's what you want to hear first before you use this transitional statement. Don't use this transitional statement before you get the okay. Okay, if they say, yes, I am interested, I want to know more, here's the transitional statement. Great. Here's what we do next. I want to get you on the phone with my buddy Matt. He's the one who's been helping me. He's going to be able to help you as well and answer some questions that I may not be able to answer. Can we jump on a quick call tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Okay, that's it. If they want, and if they say, well, no, I really don't want to get on the phone, like, hey, John, you just told me this is what you want. And honestly, if that's what you want, here's what we do. And I promise you, he's not going to try and sell you on anything. It's truly just for you to get another opinion, kind of hear where he's been, and he'll be able to give you some insight that's going to really be able to help you. Okay, who's going to say no to that? Okay, so share your story, ask good questions, get them to say yes, they want to hear more, and then it's great. Here's what we do next. I want to get you on the phone with your sponsor. Now, make sure you don't say three-way call. Don't use the term sponsor. Don't use the term leader or any of that stuff. Okay, it's get on the phone with my friend who's been helping me. Okay, not get on a three-way call with my sponsor. That just sounds weird. Okay, we don't do that. So make sure you watch how you use that transition statement. Okay, then I want you to watch 2 videos. Okay, one is, well, technically there's 3. All right. If you haven't watched the Getting Started video series yet, you need to do that. Okay, do that first before you do anything else. Okay, and make sure that you print off the worksheet that goes with it. The reason I want you to watch those Getting Started videos, and it takes less than an hour to go through all 12, is that is exactly what you should be walking all your new distributors through from the start. Right out the gate, they need to watch those 12 Getting Started videos. If somebody watches those videos and they take the time to spend an hour watching them, I know they're serious. And that's a person I'm going to lock arms with. So do that yourselves. Make sure you know what's in those videos. Make sure you use that worksheet so that when you recommend it to somebody else, you know exactly what they're doing. And then when they're done, you guys just talk it out. Go through that worksheet with them. Okay, now you'll know what the next steps for them are going to be. Okay, once you've done that, then you can go to the business training, go to all business training, and watch Joe Hadachek's rookie bonus, because for the majority of you, you're brand new advisors. You have 6 pay periods to earn a rookie bonus. That's an extra $500 on top of what you're going to earn just for working your business like you're supposed to be doing. And who doesn't want an extra 500 bucks? And if you don't, let me know, and I will take it from you when you earn it. But reality is, guys, the rookie bonus is designed to help you kind of get out of your comfort zone and get you to work. Okay, because an extra 500 bucks can be life-changing for a lot of people. Okay, so watch that video. It's very short. It tells you how to achieve the rookie bonus. And again, one of the reasons I'm telling you to do this is because when we build this business, we want everything we do to be easily duplicated. Okay, and it is very easy to say, hey, John, now that you're an advisor, I want you to log into your Advocare site, click the Learn tab, and then click on Business Training. And under the All Business Training videos, I want you to watch Joe Hadachek's rookie bonus. And once you finish that, call me. How easy is that? I'm telling you guys, this business is easy, all right? Or simple. It's just we have to make sure that we're doing this stuff. All right. Then the next one, under personal development videos, watch a plan for personal development. If you don't know who Andy Andrews is, I highly recommend that you read his books. Every one of them is great. The Traveler's Gift is one of my favorite. But Andy Andrews is amazing at personal development. And so I want you to start watching those videos. And the first one is a plan for personal development. And take the time. I think the video is 14 minutes or so it's not very long at all. But just take notes with it. Okay, so that's going to be your homework. Make sure you go through the worksheet that you have for this first class. The next class is going to be Monday, same time. I'll make sure I send out the link. And as we go through this, guys, if you have any questions, right now, if you had a question, you want to type it in on the right-hand side of your screen, should be a chat box. You can type in a question there. But utilize that Facebook group page as well. So if you're going through and you're writing out your story and you want to share it to the whole group, which I highly recommend. Guys, the more eyes on it, the more people who can see it and maybe can help you refine it, the better. It can only help you by doing those things. So utilize that Facebook group page for questions, for anything that's related to helping you build your business. If you have a question, most likely somebody else has that same question. Okay, so we want to make sure that we're being proactive in this, and that we're really using this whole system that we're putting together, these training videos, uh, to the best of our use. Okay, we want this to get you guys moving as quickly as possible, but we need to make sure we take some time as well. That's why I'm not doing this, 4 days straight. I'm doing this once a week so that you can focus on some of the things that we've talked to today and really build those habits. Writing out your story and practicing it, it's not something that you're going to get down in one day. It's going to take several days for you to get this down. Okay, and I know a lot of you are using your discretionary time. Maybe you only have an hour or two out of the week to work on your Advocare business. Well, this is the stuff that you need to focus on now. Okay, so this is all the stuff. If you saw that iceberg photo that I posted the other day, this is all the stuff under the iceberg, all the stuff that people don't see. Okay, people don't see the time that I spent writing out my story, revising it, calling Matt, hey, here's my story, how does this sound? Well, I would change XYZ, go back and do this, and I would change it, and all that stuff. Going to the events all by myself. Nobody saw that stuff. Okay, that's all the stuff that's under the line. We don't see, the stuff that's underneath the iceberg that we actually do see. And the majority of the stuff that we do in Advocare is under the water. Most people aren't going to see that. Okay, we need to make sure that we're focusing on this stuff though, and everything else will start to come into place if we can be consistent with this. So I hope this first class helped you guys out. I know for some of you who have been in this for a while, maybe this is just a little rehash. You're like, yeah, I've heard this before, but have you really done it? I know for the first year of my business, I heard a lot of this stuff, but I really wasn't doing it. I wasn't writing out my story. I was telling facts. I was sharing Drew Brees and Dr. Dudrick. It's when I first started sharing my story that people related to me. And that's when I got people moving. So I don't want you to wait a year. I want you to get going now. And so take the time to do this stuff. And if you want me to go over it, I don't care if I'm not your sponsor, I will go over it. All right, I do this full time now, so I've got plenty of time to do that. But make sure that you are reaching out to your sponsor, letting them know that you're doing this training so that they can be holding you accountable as well. Okay, so with that, guys, I appreciate you being on. This has been recorded, so you will get an email with the recording link. If you don't, just let me know and I'll get it to you personally. But enjoy the rest of your night, and hopefully I will talk to you all soon. Remember, 3 people to share your story with, and use the successes and get them on a 3-way call or a 2-on-1 meeting with your sponsor. Talk to you soon.